What is going on, you guys, and welcome to our first ever episode of the Average Bobcast, where we will be diving into various topics along the New York Giants and other stuff along the lines within the NFL as well. So, with that, let's get started. It is Sunday, March 5th, and the majority of the Giants headlines are really talking about Daniel Jones, obviously, coming to terms with that contract. One article that I was just reading is just came out to talk about how, oh my God, there's so many pop-ups. Yeah, NFL insiders are close to saying that Danny Dimes will sign a 4-year, $160 million contract. This was reported by Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. And the contract's worth $40 million annually, which I think is, they said 45 originally, or Jones's people said 45, and then he said 46 recently, and the Giants kind of said see you later when they had those conversations. So it will be interesting to see, how this shakes out. I mean, at least on the bright side of things, if the Giants can pay Danny Dimes and get a contract with him up front, what that will do is open the door for Saquon to come back on the franchise tag deal there. Because it doesn't seem like, just from everything that I've read and saw, I think the sides were just too far apart in terms of what Saquon was looking for. And honestly, in all the media and stuff that I've seen recently, trying to just figure out more of what Saquon's people were looking for, it's just hard to even find. I think it's I don't even know what kind of conversations they're having with them. And, most of the media is just kind of saying that the Giants are meeting with other people, I believe Bijan Robinson or something along those lines, as a running back to potentially replace Saquon if they can't get a Danny Dimes deal done, to where they would use the franchise tag on Danny Dimes and not Saquon. So, pretty interesting times as a Giants fan. I can't remember the last time where we really had a quarterback and a running back of this magnitude up for free agency sort of at the exact same time. But the Giants, I think, did this to themselves a little bit by not having that fifth year option for DJ when they negged that fifth year. So and also what I was thinking about, if the crazy situation to think about would be if they didn't resign Daniel Jones and didn't re-sign Saquon, and then just had a boatload of cap space. And that was one thing that I was thinking about, that I was like, yeah, it would suck to obviously lose both of them, because I like them as a fan. I like the way that they play the game. But if their agents, got too greedy and missed out on deals for them, then we would have to move forward, because you have Brian Dable and Joe Schoen trying to put together a new team, really, and it's on them to figure out. So, if they thought that these deals were going to hamstring everyone else in terms of building a football club, then, they wouldn't do them. So, I think what we're going to see more often than not in this is, honestly, one thing I was thinking too, if Saquon did go to free agency, that would, I think, be the end of his Giants tenure, because someone would pay him. I mean, there's a lot of bad teams out there that mismanage money and just hand it out to people and to get a superstar in there so they could sell jerseys. And they don't really care about, trying to win games. So, and I think the Giants are the opposite of that. I think if I was Saquon too, I would factor in a little bit more of what you're going to get in New York specifically compared to everywhere else in terms of endorsements, and stuff along those lines. Like, you walk through Times Square, you'll see Saquon Barkley's, working out for an Under Armour billboard in Times Square, right? You're not going to see that if he's, I don't know, on some random team somewhere else. So, I think that's where I sit in, what I would like to see from, what I was saying is the crazy world where they don't come back. I'm also okay with that, because I trust Schoen and Brian Dable to figure out how to make it work from there. Obviously, they wouldn't be getting a high-ranked draft pick right off the board, because we finished 20-something with that pick. But obviously, the most ideal scenario would be to bring back both TJ and Saquon in a reasonable volume there. But I think, the move is, if you could get Danny Dimes at that 40 to 45, whatever, get that contract and then franchise tag Saquon, because I think I talked about it in another video where Saquon's 26 now. You franchise tag him, he'll be 27, and then he's gonna have to get a contract when he's 28 years old. And running backs, once they hit a certain age, it just doesn't matter really who they are unless you're like Adrian Peterson or Barry Sanders or something. But like there's a significant drop off. No one's really gonna give you that long term deal of 28. You might sign, even like Todd Gurley, I think signed like a 3 or 4 year deal that time, and they cut him after like 1 year. So it's like, or traded him. So it's hard to say. I mean, running backs, this is why you don't want to be one. If you could pick your position and play something else, or not play football and get your head bashed in general, go play baseball or something, where you get your guaranteed contracts up front. That seems like a way better career longevity and life longevity move. Anyway, moving on, I think the next thing that I wanted to touch on, because the combine was this week, was a couple of the guys that were popping up on the Giants' radar a bunch of different times. I think you had TCU wide receiver Quentin Johnston. He, when you watch the games for TCU, I don't know if any of you guys watch many of their games, but like, he is ginormous, 6'4", 215 pounds, like can get up there, make plays. Hey, that would be a great to have, right? It's just a matter of, how teams are valuing the wide receiver position this year, because the last couple of years, right, you see wide receivers fly off the board in the first round, and it's kind of like a lot of people just trying to throw darts at a board, right, that's far away, and maybe a dart will hit a bullseye, right? And then you got a guy like Tyreek Hill or some crazy freak wide receiver on your team. Having said that, some other names on the list that could fall to the Giants with the 25th overall pick: Jordan Addison, Jalen Hyatt, Zay Flowers, Rashid Rice. I saw Zay Flowers flying up, charts and stuff because what he was doing. He's a smaller guy out of BC. I think this is something that I've always have vocalized, but now I have this new great podcast, so I'll say that I don't want any football players from BC unless they're like offensive guards, where we had Christie for a long time, and then you guys had like Kiwanuka was decent and Herzog too, but and then you get like running backs like Andre Williams. I just think the BC guys just don't tend to really pan out as much unless they are like sort of an offensive lineman per se. So having said that, I don't want Zay Flowers, and I'm going to stand with that no matter what happens, and I hope they don't pick him. But Quentin Johnston, on the other hand, big dude, has a lot of playmaking potential, and yeah, if we could get a wide receiver at that 25th pick, I think that's great, because one, it fills an immediate need with the loss of, the great Kenny Galladay and the illustrious Kadarius Toney. And then, so it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Also at the combine, Giants were trying, Joe Schoen was discussing, obviously, a long-term extension for Dexter Lawrence. And obviously, he's very deserving of that. I kind of broke down his entire 2022 season in the Giants D-line video. So be sure to watch that, where I go into detail about that. So great to see that, he is closer to get paid, and Joe Schoen was quoted as saying that, what did Joe Schoen say? We've had a conversation with his agent. He's a great leader and great player. We would like to have him here for a long time. That's what you want to hear, especially from a guy that they made captain. Also around the combine, Giants met with quarterback Anthony Richardson out of the University of Florida. Go Gators there. This guy is an interesting one, because I feel like I watched a lot of Florida games, because my old office was based out of Florida. I had a lot of coworkers and friends that are University of Florida fans, so I like to talk to them about the games. And then, and I've always loved Florida because of Tim Tebow, right? He was in college right around the time I was in college, and I just loved the way he played the game. Urban Meyer. There's some classic Florida teams, right? And everyone always does that, talks, and you see those memes pop up about like, when are we going to get that 30 for 30 from ESPN about like the 2008 Florida or 2009 Florida Gators team, which sign me up, because I'll watch a 10-part series on that one, because they had everyone on that team. Like Hernandez was there too. So, you get and Riley Cooper. So you get Tim Tebow, the priest, the racist Riley Cooper, and then the murderer in Hernandez. It was kind of, and then you had Urban Meyer too. There's just the Pouncey brothers, Pouncey twins, just a crazy amount of folks on that team. But yeah, so getting to my point about Anthony Richardson and having watched a lot of Florida football games last year, pretty infuriating guy to have money on when you're watching play football, because yes, he does some things so well, and then other times you're watching. I forget, it was a game towards the end of the season last year, and they have the ball and probably like on their own. Florida's on their own 10-yard line with a chance to go down the field and I think like tie it up or get within striking distance, right? And like Anthony Richardson just throws one of the worst pick sixes I've ever seen in my life. So I think from that moment, I've kind of sworn off the guy. Yes, is he a freak athlete? Yes. A lot of guys look like freaks in these combines, especially when they're throwing these passes. Just ask Jets fans about what happened with Zach Wilson. He does that stupid freaking play where he throws it across his body for 60 yards, and it's like that guy skyrockets up draft boards for no other reason besides some sort of freakish play, or with no pads on, and you would automatically get destroyed, like what happened with him in real life when he was in the NFL doing this stuff. So yeah, don't believe the hype on some guys. Is Anthony Richardson a good football player? Probably. Is he going to be a good NFL player? Yet to be seen. But I don't know. Probably not. He would probably need the right system around and everything. So just Giants fans, I implore you to not get too hyped on him, obviously. And if we resign Danny Dimes, that will obviously not happen. But again, I mentioned this a few times, though. Just because we do resign Danny Dimes doesn't mean you can't take a quarterback later on in the draft and see if they can't develop, especially as Danny Dimes has some injury issues. I think him and Saquon both last year really bit down on their mouthpiece, knowing that they were going to come to this exact moment when they're negotiating for contracts and they could say, I played 16 games last year. Open up the checkbook for me. Another, just reading Empire Sports Media had an article about adding another potential wide receiver here through free agency. 25-year-old Paris Campbell, coming off one of his career seasons to date with 91 targets on 63 receptions, 623 total receiving yards, and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, I mean, Empire Sports Media doing a good job kind of diving into the free agency wide receiver mill here, because there are a lot of free agent wide receivers, but I think the thing is none of them are all that good. I mean, T. Higgins at the top of that list, Giants fans always keep talking about potentially trading for him or signing him. I don't think the Giants should really overpay in paying any of these wide receivers after just what happened and this is maybe just recency bias, dealing with the whole Kenny Galladay fiasco. So, it's just like, do we want to pay someone who, and a guy like T. Higgins had Joe Burrow throwing him the ball. He also had Boyd on one side and Jamar Chase on the other. So obviously, there's not enough DBs to really cover all of them. So, but respect. I mean, I think all these guys will get paid. It's just a matter of does it make sense? Paris Campbell. Yeah, if it's a really cheap deal, like $2.5 million average salary, that could actually be a pretty good fit. So kudos to Empire State Media on this one, or Empire Sports Media rather. Gotta get their name right. That could be a good fit because then that adds Hodgins. It also has Wan'Dale Robinson coming back as well. So I wonder when Wan'Dale will actually be able to come back. I think we'll have more after OTAs and getting ready for camp, and he might be I don't know. It depends on how he heals up, but you might lose a little bit of your edge there. And then, but yeah, they're gonna have to bring in some other guys here, right? Just because they don't really have anyone right now. Going over to touch on a little bit more free agency, the Sportsnaut. I've never even heard of this site before. Sportsnaut, but it's spelled Naut instead of sports nut. Anyway, looking into their article about free agency fixes for the Giants, first on their list there is Jacoby Myers, coming over from the Patriots. I mean, he was a funny guy. Like if you had him in fantasy, because he would always kind of go decently early and never scored any touchdowns. So that was interesting. But he's 27 years old, and I think this is his first sort of bid into free agency. So I couldn't imagine him, not going for a lot of money. Like, I don't know, some other team will probably get more. Jamal Williams from the Lions, he will be a free agent. Obviously, the guy was a touchdown machine last season. I don't understand why the Lions want to bring him back. They had a pretty good offense, so might as well continue to leverage that rotation that we had and that we saw when the Lions kind of manhandled the Giants that week. So next up on their list, Bobby Wagner, and he was cut by the Rams recently. Bobby Wagner is an incredible linebacker, probably one of the best linebackers that the league has seen, probably in the last decade. And the Giants, this is an immediate need and fill because the Giants have had zero success at the linebacker position the last few years. So bringing in a guy like Bobby Wagner really just is so beneficial. He is a veteran presence, and he's an impact player still, as you could see, at 140 tackles and 6 sacks in 2022. Yeah, and I don't know. I think Giants fans, I know I'm sick of seeing terrible middle linebacker or interior linebacker play. I know you guys probably are too. And Bobby Wagner, what it cost to get done? Like probably like 8 or 9 million, or like just give him a really low deal and max out his bonus at like 10 million. Like who cares? That doesn't affect our cap as much. And I think it would be a great move that Average Bob here endorses. David Montgomery, running back, unless Saquon leaves, wouldn't do that. Patrick Peterson. The Giants are definitely probably going to need some cornerback help. So wouldn't be a bad move. Again, does you want to sign a guy to a 1 year deal? Maybe. And then Devin Singletary from Buffalo, not doing that. So I think, we're going to learn a lot more over the coming days about, where the Giants are at, especially with the Saquon and DJ situations, as the date to franchise tag a player will be Tuesday, this being Sunday afternoon at around 2 p.m. I think the Giants will probably be looking to have that finalized tomorrow, if possible, just so that could give them some more time to say, listen, Saquon, this is what we're going to do for you. This is what's best for the team. So here's the franchise tag. And then if they can't figure out that, then they'll have to franchise tag Daniel Jones. Anyway, if you guys made it this far, thank you guys so much for watching. This is episode 1 of the Average Bobcast, where we talk all things about the Giants, rumors, free agency, drafts, combine, all that fun stuff. So hope you guys liked the episode. If you have any thoughts, would love if you guys commented. Let me know like what you guys think about particular topics or anything you want to see in next week's podcast, so I could go ahead and address anything you guys want specifically. So thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your weekend, and have a great week, y'all.